All right, everybody, welcome back to the DSN Prospect Pod. It's been a little while. We've let the draft breathe. It definitely wasn't because of, I don't know, a power outage in my city or Jake not being available or anything like that. We definitely have just been thinking about it really hard for I don't
Yes.
know, like a week and a half. That's definitely what we've been doing. Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, there are picks that you could think about for
I mean,
months,
yeah,
eons.
perhaps, and we will be
Go back to
actually is what.
week.
Yeah, that's definitely also part of what we'll be doing to some degree. But anyway, this is going to be our first show since the draft stream specifically. When that was a lot of fun, Jake. I know Dalton, you got to get on at the end. That was very entertaining. I hope for everyone who did catch that. We did pretty well, I think, overall. So definitely hope you guys checked that out. Had a good time with that. But this is now that the draft is over, been over for a while. We've had time to think about what classes do we like, what classes don't we like, what classes do we kind of throw the shrug emoji out at and be like, I don't know, man. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? That's what today's show is going to be about. We might do a full draft grade show at some point, but Dalton, Jake, overall, I want to start with just some takeaways, your biggest ones from the draft. There's one name we're going to spend, I'm sure, a lot of time on to some capacity. I'm sure Dalton definitely wants to talk about a little bit. But in general, what are your biggest takeaways from the draft? Let's start with you, Dalton.
Yeah, we'll talk about the elephant, or should I say the buffalo in the room in a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
We did there.
Nice.
The brown in the room.
Yeah. But overall, I think the biggest takeaway, at least from what I was looking at, and after I put my big board together, I mean, even I think our consensus big board, kind of too. Looking at that, do we not know shit? I just don't. As far as what NFL owners are thinking or NFL GMs are thinking, I feel like we just don't know because
you can never
there
know for
were
sure.
so many surprises and so many guys that I thought were day 3 guys that went early day 2, and I was just like, I felt like I just wasted the last 6 months of my life watching tape.
Listen, it's never a waste, Dalton, okay? Because it's all about, one, creating content for everyone, having fun with that, getting better at what we do. And again, just because the NFL doesn't think like you, Dalton, doesn't mean that they're right at the end of the day.
True.
We'll find that out over the next couple of years. But in general, I know what you're saying, though. Yeah.
There were so many guys that I had, never even heard of that were going, round 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just, yeah. There
was definitely players that I hadn't fully written up that went that early for sure. A couple guys that I mostly not anybody I didn't know per se, but guys that I at least didn't watch fully.
I think
that
late
were going
day
pretty
3
early.
there were some surprises.
For sure, yeah. You get some of those guys who the hell is that man? There's always a few of those where even Dane Brugler with his beast.
3, yeah.
We're Dane Brugler with his beast, at the end of the draft, especially, even he's he writes up 1,100 some players, and even he's man, I hope I don't miss anybody. It's dude, if you miss somebody, whoever picked that player they need to find God or something, bro. If you were getting outside 1,100 players, let's not do this, right? But no, it was very fun overall. So surprised.
Williams, Ashton Galati.
Yeah. I mean, I did watch Galati a little bit. He's definitely the Chiefs type. Let me put it that way. Was it a round or two early for me? Probably, based on what I saw. But he certainly fits the mold of what they're looking for. So, I do understand that one a little bit.
Those are actually both Chiefs picks, yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah, so I think they both fit the mold. Now, do I think they were the best players they could have taken? No. But they fit the mold. And that's the other thing you have to think about is some picks are made solely because of a team likes that player for that scheme that they're going to be playing. And that player might not be good if he's not playing in that scheme. So there's an element of that too. So
also, who's Justin Wally?
Oh, Minnesota corner, dude. You don't know Justin Wally? No, he's solid. He's a solid player. I thought he was going to be a later day 3 pickup, but yeah, he's
not round 3.
Yeah, that was definitely surprising. But I do.
He's going to be someone that I
remember
talk
him
about
making
later.
some plays in the Penn State game, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's certainly one I didn't expect to go. So I was targeting him like 6th, 7th round for the Steelers, for example. I'm sure, Jake, you guys had people at Steelers Depot thinking the same thing. And then he goes round 3. It's like, all right, well, never mind, I guess. Screw us. So, no, I get what you're saying. But any major takeaways from you, Jake, before we get kind of rolling here?
Yeah, late day 3 was a really interesting time in the draft because there was some like Quinn Ewers. I feel like got a pity draft selection.
Dude,
Like the Dolphins in the
I'm gonna
7th
talk
round.
about
Like I
Quinn Ewers
can
later,
get it,
don't
but
worry.
it's kind of like I feel like the Dolphins felt bad that he was sliding down the board that far.
listen, even I, as a certified Quinn Ewers hater, was like, you could take him to the 6th round and be like,
Yeah.
sure, let's see what happens. For him to go as late as he did after, like, Graham Mertz, like, what are we doing?
He went 4 rounds later than Dylan Gabriel.
Which, again, like, even I'm like, dude.
Yeah, actually, I thought I had Miami in my bottom 3. I didn't, but I'll say this: I do think it's funny how the Dolphins were like, "All right, so we need a backup for Tua, right? Well, let's just get the dollar store version of Tua."
Literally, yeah. It's like, all right, gets injured all the time, has issues, has no pocket presence whatsoever. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
It's very funny. Very
But
funny,
also,
actually.
in that offense, like if he plays, he might actually have some success.
Yeah, he'll probably. I mean, in that offense, he'll be probably fine because he won't have to think for more than 2 seconds at a time. Like, and that's usually when shit starts to go bad is when he has to think about something.
He delivers a good ball. Like,
Yeah, he can if he's healthy. Yeah, it's just very funny that he went as late. I'm like, man,
exactly like Tua, but a little worse.
Yeah, it's just because the thing I was like, I'm definitely gonna be the lowest on Quinn Ewers of all time. I'm like, damn, the NFL is somehow the lowest on him. And I was like, that's not what I expected to happen. I'm like, man, I've been talking shit on him this whole time, and even I probably would have drafted him at some point before like 220 or whatever he went. Like, yeah, that's tough.
Would you drafted him? Here's the question: would you have drafted him ahead of Will Howard?
No.
No, I just think Howard is more likely to stick around as like a backup because he's not almost dead already. Like, I think Quinn is like beat the shit already, kind of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like, that's another thing with him. Like, if I thought Quinn was kind of good, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, like, I could talk myself into him more, but like, he also never plays and is never healthy when he does play. Like, he's always banged up in some fashion. It's not going to get easier when you're getting killed by 330 pounders every week. I know the SEC is tough, but the NFL is still tougher, man. Like, you got to hold up a little bit better. So that's the other problem with him. Probably why he went so late is the injury stuff, honestly. There's
nothing better than an injury-prone backup to your injury-prone starter.
Yeah. Zach Wilson better be ready to play, bro. I mean, he's going to be.
Oh,
the
I forgot
backup
he was
anyway.
there.
He'll probably be the backup anyway, but it's just it's funny.
Yeah, the QB position in general, I really didn't understand. We'll talk. I have a few of these names that I'm going to bring up when we talk about these favorite classes, but
for sure.
Just seeing how the different positions went off the board, like running back didn't really go as quick as I thought it would.
There was a bit of a lull, at times, but they kind of went in bunches in different points.
Late day 3, I just didn't understand, like how some players went undrafted and how some were drafted. Like the Steelers taking Dante Kent. Like he was asked on a conference call after, and he was like, "I didn't even think I was going to get drafted." Like he was
usually like, not a great sign.
The
not gonna lie.
He said they've made like no contact with him throughout the whole process. So he was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to go here, but."
Yeah, if dude was surprised he was getting was he surprised he was getting drafted by the Steelers or surprised he was getting drafted?
Kind of both. Like I've had to do some research into him now. He's probably like the funniest corner that could have been taken because he I think he led the league or led FBS in like pass breakups or something, but he also like was getting burned deep every game. So it's like
it's pretty hilarious. He's like truly boomer bust like corner like personified. It's
he
funny.
had like a 14 pass breakup season and a 15 pass breakup season, and he had I think 2 interceptions throughout his whole college career. So
didn't make good on a lot of them.
Interesting players, but late day 3 was a weird.
Every year there's like over 500 guys that think they're getting drafted. Probably closer to 1,000 to be honest.
Not great.
And so like for him to not think he was getting
drafted,
be
sure is kind of funny. Yeah.
Interesting.
Hey man, what are you gonna do? Sometimes you just gotta take the shot. When you have a chance to take Dante Kent in the draft, you got to do it, is what they say. No, but anyway. Let's kick things off. As far as my takeaways, you'll hear them as we go through. You'll hear a lot of them as we go through. I kind of echo a lot of what you guys kind of said so far, and a lot of them will manifest as we talk about it. So, but
before we get into our grades, should we talk about?
Let's just talk about it for a little bit because again, we're gonna do our 3 favorites, 3 least favorites. Browns might come up in that depending on who we have here, but like in case they don't, frequent heavily in this discussion, we'll talk about it. Shedeur Sanders going in the 5th round, I will say objectively hilarious, kind of. Not gonna lie, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, if we're just going off of talent, obviously, very stupid. But we know that it's not about that. Like, even if some of it's that, where it's like the league viewed him closer to kind of how I eventually got to him in the process of like, he probably will be a good starting quarterback, but he might never be a great one. And if we don't like the kid, literally a bit, like 0% like him as a person, and the best outcome we think is that he could be a decent starter, why would we draft him at all? Is what I think a lot of teams ultimately came down to. Yeah. And I think even though that's being very short-sighted for a position like quarterback, where a decent starter can mean a lot for teams that don't have one, I do understand the thought process of that. If he's really that unlikable, if he's truly that unlikable, I do understand it. But for him to make it that long is kind of insane to me. But I'm sure you feel the same way, Dalton. Yeah. So.
I feel like ego got in the way a lot with a lot of GMs and owners. I think that was just it. Like, I think the Deion stuff rubbed people the wrong way. I think there's a lot of stuff and I think like his not meeting with certain teams rubbed him the wrong way. But like the way I look at it is like, if I'm an NFL GM and Shedeur walked into the meeting, turned around and took a shit on the desk and walked out, I'd still take him in the 3rd round.
And again, like I get that. Right. That's why I said I think it was still short-sighted for him to be passed up as many times as he was. But it is like, it's just very clear that that's what it was. Is like teams didn't view him nearly as highly as he viewed himself and Deion viewed him, and because of that, the way he chose to go about the process buried him into the 5th round. Right? Like that's what it ultimately comes down to. I think if he was excellent in interviews, if he really sold himself well, if he met with any team that wanted to meet with them or within reason, and he did a good job in the process, he probably goes back into the 1st round, the 2nd round, which is where I think the league viewed him as a talent. Because he didn't do that, they were like, well, what the hell are we taking him for if we don't like him at all? So that's what it ultimately comes down to. And honestly, even where he was taken with the Browns, people have said this. We obviously don't know this at this point. Maybe it will come out. Maybe it won't. I think Jimmy Haslam made a phone call or talked to somebody and said, listen, I don't care that we took Dylan Gabriel already. I don't care that he sucks as a person, clearly, or to some degree they think he does, or they don't like whatever it is. I want him on my football team. It's been long enough. That's what I think happened. And I think that because it wouldn't make sense if that isn't what happened. They literally took a quarterback 50 picks higher than him already, partially because I think that they like him more. And as a person and as maybe not as a player, obviously, but as a person, as someone in the locker room, they can run the offense. They clearly valued what Gabriel brought more than they valued what Sanders brings. And for them to still take him later is kind of preposterous to me. And I don't even want to give them credit for taking a player that I had much higher in my board than anyone else they could have taken to that point. Because why didn't you just take him before if you actually wanted him? Like you could have, obviously, multiple times. Even after the 3rd round, you could have taken him multiple times. So it's just a weird situation, and that's kind of my ultimate take on it. But
they did move up for him, which is also
that's the thing. Weird. Is like what is none of it makes any sense at the end of the day.
They're like, oh, now he just can't fall any further.
It's like now we can't let him get to this team.
Yeah, I know. It's weird that 5th round was your.
Again. I don't know what ultimately happened. What do you think with it, Jake? I'm gonna give you a chance here.
I think you guys have summed it up pretty well. I'm gonna talk about the Browns as one of my least favorite draft classes.
Okay,
I'll have more thought. I'm gonna save my thoughts for that.
They aren't so they're on my list of teams I could talk about if we talk about one team too many times in least favorite, but they're not one of my solidified 3 least favorites. So I'm glad that you have them in there if you wanted to talk about them. So Dalton.
They did make some picks that I actually like some of their picks I like, but The Browns are the only team where I like came out of this draft thinking that they're like not a well-run organization right now. Like I just.
That's fair. I understand what you're trying to say, but we'll get into that. Let's start on a positive note. We'll go around the horn for our favorite, and then kind of second favorite, go around the horn there. I'll start with you, Dalton. Here, who would be your favorite draft overall? We're gonna start there.
So I gave 1 A+ grade in the league this year, and it was the Baltimore. Ravens.
I'm glad you brought him up.
I mean, that's a fantastic draft. I mean, Malachi Starks in the first, like, as far as he fell, I mean, hats off to them. I mean, I know they didn't really do much. He just happened to fall. But to be able to just sit there and, these good teams stay good, a lot of it is because they just stay where they're at and they let players fall through the cracks to the end of the first, and they grab them. And that's exactly what happened there. But then to be able to get Mike Green in the second round, which, I mean, character flaws and all, he's a guy that their team, they can take a chance on a guy like him because he's not going to sink their franchise, especially not as a second-round pick, if he doesn't pan out. And then, speaking of guys they can take a chance on, love the Emory Jones fit in the third round. I know I'm a little higher on him than others, but he's a guy that I do think needs to sit for a minute. And Baltimore's a place where he can do that because, again, they're a well-established team. They have at least a starting caliber player at every position already. They don't have to play him right away. They're not like some of these teams that really don't have real football players starting at certain positions.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about that. So he can sit for a little bit. Also, day 3, they had a really good day 3. I felt like replacing Justin Tucker, I thought was just a great move to just go out and just be aggressive on that and not be like, we're going to figure out what's going on with this. And then in August, once it becomes really ugly, we're going to then just scramble to grab somebody off of free agency. They just pulled the trigger on a good kicker. And then some sneaky picks in the 6th round with LeJontay Wester. I think Wester has potential to be really good. I think he kind of flew under the radar at Colorado. And then Aeneas Peebles is a guy that, the size isn't quite there. There's a few things that kind of concern you, but there's some potential for him to at least be able to do something. I don't know what exactly he's going to do, but there's some potential there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in general. Like, obviously, you look at our consensus board, Malachi Starks was 7th. They get him at 27. It's, pretty hard not to be ecstatic about that. Even, again, we know why Green was where he was, right? We know, 22 on our consensus board goes to 59. But there's a reason for that. Like, clearly, from what we have heard since, is that the league was very concerned in general with how he went about the process of explaining himself, talking about that situation that he was in. So it's a risk, right? Now, again, this is a team that can take that risk, and if he hits as a talent and doesn't get in trouble, then obviously they're going to reap the benefits of that. But it is also not the best look in the world to take Mike Green when you have the Justin Tucker situation going on. Yeah. So there is that element of it. But again, if we're doing from a draft analysis perspective, awesome pick. Yeah, the Emory Jones Jr. pick.
Yeah, I mean, they got him at 60, right?
What's up?
They got him at
59. I think it was 59. Yeah, 59th overall. Yeah, like, again, great value. The Jones pick, it's early for me, but I think he's their type, though. It's the same time. Like, I think that's why he goes there. It's because he is kind of their type at guard. A bit more a bigger hulking player with more power to his game.
That could be a tackle too, if he needs to.
I still think no, but for them, he might be able to do that. I think realistically, he would fit at right tackle more than left tackle because he obviously played right tackle. But I really like Rosengarten, so probably not going to need to play tackle there. So either way, I think as a guard specifically, he makes sense for them.
Yeah, a lot like Colecchio.
Yeah, like again that type of player. So. Again, really good draft. They're definitely on my list of teams for sure. So I'm glad we talked about them. Jake, who would be your favorite draft then? Unless it was, if it's the Ravens' favorite draft and second favorite, I guess. But how are you going to do it?
I'm going to be biased. Okay. I'm going to go with the Raiders.
Okay, I'm glad you brought them up. They were in my list as well.
This legitimately might be the first time that I've ever had the Raiders in like my top 3 favorite draft classes, but there's only really a couple picks at the back end of the draft that I don't really understand, but I think, through the first 2 days, I really like the moves they made. Genty finally gives the offense an identity. Probably, I think the Raiders going from Zamir White to Ashton Jenney might be. We'll have to see how the rookie year goes, but it might be like the biggest like single positional upgrade.
Yeah,
in the entire league this offseason.
Yeah.
I like Jack Betch in the second round. Darian Porter might be the most accurately mocked player of all time. I saw so many mock drafts of him going to the Raiders. I think I had him in one of my Raiders mock drafts that I wrote up. So I love that addition. I like going back-to-back on offensive linemen and Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant. I like Dante Thornton Jr. It's an Al Davis pick if I've ever seen one.
Had to get the Al Davis pick in there at some point.
I like Tonka Hemingway, J.J. Pajue. Both of those additions I like. Now, Tommy Millott and Cam Miller.
What an interesting combo of picks. What an interesting combination.
I know Tommy Millott is pretty much going to be a receiver, but at that point, if you already drafted Jack Betch and Dante Thornton Jr., I don't understand why you're going for Tommy Millott there and wanting to convert him to a receiver. I just don't get that. Maybe it'll work.
Kicker turns, I think.
Yeah. Maybe it'll work. I just don't understand it. Cam Miller, okay, I guess.
Shout out Bisons.
I like that I wish they would have went linebacker sooner, but at least they took one with the very last pick they possibly could have. They're like, okay, I guess we should do something about linebacker. But up until those last 3 picks, I actually think they had a really good draft, which I haven't been able to say about the Raiders in a long time. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I want to hear Dalton's thoughts first on the Raiders draft, obviously.
Yeah. So, in the Raiders universe in general, the draft's been pretty positive, and I feel like I don't know. I don't really see it. I had a B- grade in the Raiders draft. So for me, I mean, the Genty pick was the best pick I think they could have made there, if they weren't going to trade back. So like I have no problems with the Genty pick, especially given what's come out about Shedeur Sanders and Will Johnson.
Yeah,
I have no problem with the Genty pick. Jack Betch, I had a 5th round grade on. Him in the 2nd round just really shocked me, especially when, now the league certainly wasn't very high on the Ilik Iomenor, I know, but I don't know if that's who I would have taken there. And yeah, I don't really get Jack Betch in the 5th round. To me, I feel like he's going to do a lot of what Brock Bowers already does. And I just don't know, the fit's really weird for me. And then I do like that they turned 2 picks in the second on day 2 into 4. But the problem is they got Betch, who I think, might be the number 2 receiver, might be an okay number 2 receiver at best. Like, that's his absolute ceiling, in my opinion. And then they got Porter, who I think should be the starting corner across from Jacorian Bennett. But, like, again, I had a late 3rd round grade on him. He's already 24. He's already who he is. I just don't think there's a very high ceiling on him, and I think there were better guys. I would have preferred Javon Ravel there by a mile. And then they used those other 2 late day 2 picks on 2 offensive linemen that I don't think have any shot at starting this year. They are good depth guys. I think Grant has a lot of potential, but at the end of the day, neither one's starting this year. I think they're both swing tackles. Really, is probably their best role in the NFL. One of them, they might be able to. One of them might turn into a starting guard, but like that's the ceiling. And I feel like they didn't really get great value. And then day 3, they had a lot of fun. They were having fun on day 3. They got a lot of fun guys. But again, for a team that had so many needs, I felt like they drafted, the way I look at it is they drafted like a team that won 9 games last year, and they won 4. That's the way I look at it.
That's fair. I will say, obviously, the Genty pick, home run for me. I do think, would I have rather seen him go to a team that's a little bit more equipped to maximize him year one? Sure. But again, considering what they had available to them, I don't blame them for just making the pick that everyone kind of thought was going to be the pick for a long time. The Jack Besh pick, he did have a second-round grade for me, so I have no problem with it. He wasn't the best receiver on the board for me. So there is an element of, like, would I have taken a different receiver? Yes. But I think he's an awesome player, and I don't mind taking a player that I like as much as him at this point in the draft, so I have no qualms with that. Darren Porter, he is – to me, I think I understand the element of, like, he's 24, so you worry that he is who he is. I think he's the rare case of guy who I have no idea who he is or who he could be because he didn't play this position for the majority of the time he was in college.
That's kind of why I have higher hopes
right.
on him, because I think he's got more room to grow. Because he's only been there for, I think, 2 years.
As a true corner, I think 2 full years, yeah. So, like, at the same time, like, obviously, you know, why did he take so long to get on the field, this and that? But this is a true freak of freaks athlete at the position. Like, it's very Zion McCollum-esque for me, and we know how he's turned out for the Bucs. If he becomes anything close to that, this is a home run pick for you guys. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. I like the swing on the offensive line. For me, I think Charles Grant, if I had to bet, he will be one of the starting tackles on this team in the next 2 to 3 years. Like, I think he can be a starting tackle in the NFL. He has the length. More length than most guys in this class does. He has athletic traits. He dominated his position in a smaller school. I think he has the tools to become a starting tackle. So I think you take a swing on that at pick 99. Can't really complain about that too much. And then, like you said, day 3 is all about fun, dude. And granted, how many of these guys are going to do anything? I'm not really sure. But Dante Thornton feels like a Raider for sure. Dude, he's just going to run post routes for days. Literally just going to run away from everyone and try to take coverage away from all the guys who aren't running deep all the time. So I kind of get that fit. Taking swings on the interior defensive line and Hemingway and Peugeot, I get too. The Malo pick, it is weird because, again, like, is he going to actually have a role on offense even if he becomes a good receiver? I don't know with all the receivers you guys took. But he might be fun in some capacity. Cam Miller, I think, was worth a draft pick quarterback, honestly. I like when I watched a little bit of him late because I was curious. He's definitely like a true like West Coast kind of get the ball in your hands quickly quarterback with some athleticism. I think that's fine for a potential backup. And then you do take a swing at linebacker late from out of Minnesota. That tends to go okay. In recent years, you can usually find a rosterable guy out of that school, a linebacker. I think it's a pretty solid draft overall. So I got to agree with Jake. Like, not one of my favorite drafts necessarily, but certainly was on my list that I could go to if you guys took all of mine. So that's kind of where I had them on my board here. So for me, though, so my favorite draft, and this is tough because there's 2 or 3 teams that I think were kind of neck and neck for me in a lot of ways, but I landed on the New England Patriots. That's where I landed with them. And I think the main reason I say that, like, Will Campbell at 4 is a risk if he can't stick at left tackle, because I think taking any guard at 4 is a little bit of an overpay, even with how the position is kind of trending, paying, like, in terms of how it gets paid and the importance. But if he does end up at guard, he's probably going to be really good. So I don't know if I care that much. Like, for a team that is so bad at offensive line, if you take one at any spot that is good, even if it's with the 4th pick, I don't know if I can really complain about that. You know what I mean? So, like, even the detractors of that pick kind of have to sit there and go like, okay, he's going to be probably a good offensive lineman, and can you really complain about that? Then the Travion Henderson pick, I would have liked this to be a receiver, but it's very good value for where I had him at. Like, it's right around where I had him on my board. I think he adds an explosive element out of the backfield that they don't have. I think he's going to be a great pass protector on 3rd downs. We know that about him. I think he helps Drake May in a lot of different ways. That's important. And then because they don't go receiver there, they do get Kyle Williams in the 3rd round, who, when I did finally get around to him late, he would have been in this range for me on my board. In the 60s, I would have had no problem with him going here. Fits an element they don't really have offensively, is kind of a speedy outside receiver. So I have no problems with that. Jared Wilson, though, at 95 as a center replacement, I thought he was going to go earlier in this because of just the need at center, where like if someone needed a center, he's going to go early for that reason. Because unless you count Gray Zabel as a center, easily the best center in the class for me. Getting him at 95 is pretty awesome, not gonna lie. Like that's one of my favorite value picks there. I don't mind the Craig Wilson pick in the 4th round. I think I had a couple safeties ahead of him where at that point, but I don't mind that. It kind of fits their mold. Joshua Farmer that's late in the 4th round, love that. Braden Swinson though, getting him in the 5th round. I don't know if it was like if there's an injury thing I don't know about or if there's maturity questions or whatever, but that dude can play edge. Like, I'm sorry, like for him to go this late, and I think he can start at edge for this team as a rookie with the way their edge group is. That's just really nice to be able to pick up in the 5th round. Pick up a kicker, which I don't know anything about this guy. I heard about him out of Miami. I'm sure he's going to be fine. You hope so. Take a swing on a tackle, Marcus Bryant. You get the 7th round picks are like whatever kind of, but those first like 5 or 6 picks especially, just really good value for me. So really like that draft a lot.
Yeah. I like it as well. They were my number 2 favorite
Gotcha.
draft.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big fan. What I really like is they went in with a clear intent, and that was make Drake May's life easier.
Exactly, and you have to. That had to be the goal.
Yeah, and they did that. They did that, and then I do think like Farmer makes them better against the run right away, which I think is huge.
For sure.
But yeah, I think being able to protect Drake May and run the football is going to really open up a lot for him. And yeah, they really, I thought, nailed the draft.
Yeah, when you have a sophomore quarterback and your first 3 picks are the offensive line, running back, and receiver, it's hard to complain.
Yeah.
Especially when you like all 3 prospects, because I think they got some good choices there as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they're one of my favorites.
So, Dalton, if that was your second favorite, I have to push it down to your third, I guess, at this point, unless we also talked about your third already. What would be your next team up that you'd want to talk about here with your favorites?
My number 3. Now, this one, it was close.
Okay.
There were a couple, this is where I hit my A- grades. I had a few with A- grades. But the one that was probably closest to the A range on was the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, I think the biggest thing is that trade down to 5, I thought was fantastic. I thought the value they got for that was really good, and with all the picks they got, they've added 2. They were able to add 2 starters on defense with their first couple picks in Mason Graham and Carson Schweisinger. The value, I think Graham probably went about 5 to 10 picks earlier than I would have liked him. But if he's your number 1 D tackle, I'm okay with it. And then I thought the Schweisinger pick, maybe a little early as well, but by far the number 2 linebacker in this class behind Campbell. So, I mean, they're both going to start right away for the Browns, I think. And, they're a team that I think is going to need to have a solid defense because the offense is just going to be mid. Like, no matter what the quarterbacks look like, the offense is going to be mid. However, that being said, Judkins and Sampson in a backfield together is a ton of fun. I mean, those were, I think, my RB4 and RB5, respectively. So I love that they got those 2 as late as they did, especially. I thought they got really good value there. And then Harold Fanner Jr. is like an H-back tight end type thing. I don't know what exactly he's going to do. But that offense just got really fun really quick. No matter who's playing quarterback. Like, those are guys that you can just hand the ball off to, get them in the flat, and they're going to make plays. And then they took 2 shots at quarterback, which I really like. I thought Gabriel was a little early, but, the way things were going, it seems like that's where the league felt Gabriel was at, so I don't mind it. And the Shador pick in the 5th round, I think he's still the best quarterback they have on their roster now. And also, his biggest character flaw was his ego, right? And what did they do? They humbled the shit out of him by waiting till the 5th round to get him. And they still got him. And now he's coming in humbled and hungry, and I think that's and with a chip on his shoulder. And I think for somebody like him, I think that actually probably was really important, considering it seems like the ego was really bad going into the draft. So I think that's really good. I think he's already learned that he needs to push dad out of the picture a little bit in terms of, his NFL career, which I think is smart. And I think all that really sets it up where they might have found their franchise quarterback in the 5th round. There's a legitimate chance it happened. And the thing is, if not, even if Gabriel and Shedeur both don't pan out, guess what? They got 2 picks next year in the 1st round. And they still added probably at least 5 starters. Or at least, I'll say this, at least 2 starters on defense, and their running back committee is set. I mean, it's a pretty good draft.
I'm gonna let you start, Jake, because I have my own thoughts on this, but I feel like we might have similar ones. But I want to give you a shot here first, because you said this was this going to be one of your 3 least favorites?
This was going to be one of my 3 least favorites.
Okay, gotcha. So I want you to start. They didn't quite make my least favorite, so I want to give you the shot here first.
I'll start by saying I love the running back duo that they got, because I do think they made some nice picks that I want to give them credit for. I think Sampson and Judkins on the same offense will be very fun. Other than that, I just don't get what the direction is. I consider both Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger good prospects, but also reaches to where they were drafted. And I don't understand trading out of a spot where you can get a player who can impact both sides of the ball than Travis Hunter at a much higher level than I think either of these two do. I don't hate getting Graham and Schlesinger, but considering the situation they were in before, I don't understand it. At first, I thought maybe I do like getting another first-round pick for next year. I don't think the trade itself was bad value. I just don't understand why. And if you're going to gear up for a quarterback next year, why are you drafting Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders this year? Shedeur in the 5th round is objectively very, very good value. But why are you taking Dillon Gabriel in round 3? That doesn't make sense to me. Especially if you were considering drafting a QB in round 5. If Shedeur Sanders isn't there, are they going to draft another quarterback? I would think probably not. And again, Shedeur is good value, but to me that just seems like they don't really have a plan. And just
that's fair.
The Jags pick will probably be good next year, but I mean they were a pretty solid team not too long ago. If their new regime starts to go well, that pick, I mean it's still another first rounder, so it's good nonetheless. But I wouldn't necessarily immediately count on it being a high pick. I do like Harold Fannin Jr. I like that pick. So this was a tough one for me because there are some players here like Fannin Jr., Sampson, Judkins. I like Graham and Schlesinger. I just don't think those are the best next 2 selections if you're going to trade out of a spot where you could have got Travis Hunter. And the QB thing, I don't even know what to think about that. So I don't know. The main reason for me being so low on this is because they just feel like the team that went into the draft with no real plan to me. But I could be wrong. Who knows? That trade could work out great in the long run. And if Shedeur Sanders truly does, and I'm high on Sanders, if he does become their franchise quarterback, that is tremendous value. Especially when they made some other decent picks. But for me, it's just more, it just kind of seems like they don't have a plan. In the 5th round is when you're okay, I guess we'll trade up to get Sanders after passing on him and taking a different QB 2 rounds before. And I don't, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, obviously Deshaun Watson, none of those are the answer. But I don't, what do you do with that quarterback room? I don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's
poor
fair.
Kenny Pickett's not going to make the roster.
I think I give him a pass on not having a plan just because the way I look at it this year is they're going into this year knowing they're a dumpster fire. This year I don't think matters. So it's just getting good. It's just getting talent, and maybe you hit on a quarterback, And then if it works out, now you have 2 first-round picks to spend on whatever you want. But if not, you weren't planning on being good anyway, so now you've got capital to make sure you get your guy next year. That's kind of the way I look at it, but I get it. Yeah, I mean, directionally, yeah, there is no direction right now. They are a hot mess.
Yeah. So, all right, let me talk my way through this for a second. Yeah, I'm not going to try to sound too biased as a Steelers fan here because I want to be fair about this. The Browns draft was not one of my 3 least favorite, but it was firmly in the category of what exactly do you think you are?
Yeah.
Like what do you think about yourself? And
they don't know.
That right. But here's my thing ultimately. Trading out of the second pick when Travis Hunter was there, I understand the value of that trade down was certainly good. There's nothing wrong with the amount of capital they got. There's nothing wrong with like the idea of moving down. Generally, that's a good idea. If Travis Hunter's the pick, I will not move from it. Just personally, it's not happening unless it's something ridiculous. I'm talking multiple firsts. Like there's players like this don't come around often. And when I say often, I mean technically never. Like at least not in the modern era of football, right? So for me, I just simply wouldn't have done it. So that's just a little bit of a knock. But they got good value for it, so I understand it. Moving down and taking Mason Graham objectively to me is just not good enough to take it. Like if you're going to move out of taking Travis Hunter, if you take Mason Graham, I'm going to just simply look at you and be like, that's just not good enough for me. It just isn't. So that's one thing as well. So the trading down, something I would have done. Taking Mason Graham at 5, not something I would have done. So it's 2 things already for me on a personal level. Then Schlesinger, I like him as a player, a little early to take him where they did. And we all kind of agree on that, so I get that. Taking 2 running backs in a great running back class objectively is usually great. And I don't dislike the picks on a personal level from where they were taken. You might not be good until both of those players aren't on your team. There's a chance they both might not be on your team anymore by the time you were good enough to field a good running game because you have no offensive line currently. The 2 best players in your offensive line are over the age of 33, if I'm not mistaken, and they didn't play all of last year at some points. They might not be able to block anything. Run game, pass game, nothing. You didn't draft an offensive lineman, I think, at all, right, if I'm not mistaken. You didn't add to the offensive line in any way. And a solid depth class for offensive line, like swings to be had. And you take 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks, one of which is a 6th-year player who you drafted, I assume because you wanted someone who might be able to run the offense and be a kind of like a veteran as a rookie somehow, in case Kenny Pickett, of all people, can't play, which we know he can't. And Joe Flacco is a billion years old and also can't play probably. And then you take another quarterback in the 5th round where you give up the rest of the picks you had to come up and get him because apparently you had to get him even though you had 50 opportunities to take him before this. I can't give them credit for any of this. None of it. I simply can't. Yeah. Even if the value is good, Jake. I know because you said the same thing. And Dalton, I understand your perspective of it because the value on some of this was really good. They don't have any clue at all what's going on. This draft tells me that they're like, let's just add these players who, are kind of good in most cases, but they mean nothing in terms of making us a good football team next year, the year after that, or probably the year after that. Because Shedeur Sanders, let's say he works out a little bit, right? Which with this team, how much can he really show you as a rookie with this football team for you to really even know if he's the guy anyway, in my opinion. But let's say he shows you enough to convince you not to take a quarterback next year, in a year where you have 2 first-round picks. If he ends up being the 22nd best quarterback in the NFL in 2 years or 3 years, and you didn't get a quarterback in a class that we expect to be more full of talent than this year's was, because you believed in him just enough, and you look back 5 years after that, and like, man, we could have had X quarterback, but we took Shedeur and we took the chance on him. He fooled us for a couple of years. That's what happens to the Browns. Like, I just don't believe anything else is going to happen to the Browns because that's what they do to themselves.
Yeah, I mean, for the best case scenario for the Browns is Shedeur becomes Baker.
Right. And I simply don't believe that.
Even if that happens, you just burned a third-round pick on Dylan Gabriel. What did you
for no reason other than because?
You might as well have just thrown the fucking pick in the garbage.
It is Cody Kessler again. Do you remember Cody Kessler, guys? Yeah. When they took him in the third round or whatever round it was? It's the same thing. When they had DeShone Kizer and Cody Kessler in the same quarterback room, just different prospects, obviously, than what they took. But I just can't bring myself to give credit to what they did. Because
of Dylan Gabriel, if he starts the season, the moment that he starts sucking, that whole crowd is going to want Sanders.
It's over for him.
He probably went from being holy shit, I just got taken in the third round.
They should trade him now. They should trade him to another team before the season even starts, just to save himself from the situation. He doesn't deserve it. But anyway, go ahead, Dalton. I know you want to say something. So.
You guys both mentioned the Hunter thing. I wonder, do you guys think there's any chance that they thought that he either A, wasn't gonna play for them at all?
If that changes, if that's the case, sure.
Or if they thought man, if we're not if they thought man, we don't know if we're gonna be a playoff team in 2 years. We might still be a 6-11 team in 2 years, and he might just force his way out. I do.
That's fine. Yeah. I think that's fine too, but I also just wouldn't have taken Mason Graham at 5 if I'm going to trade down. So on every level for me, just can't get with it, frankly.
And also, if you're worried about things like that, I don't know if having Shedeur Sanders as potentially a backup is making it feels like a contradiction in the line of thinking to me. I don't know. I'm just
I just can't give him credit for a lot of stuff. That's what it comes down to.
In a way, the most just Shayne, I think you said it best. What do you think you are? Why are you taking a QB who one of his biggest criticisms has been his pocket presence and putting him behind a bad offensive line and then not drafting a single offensive lineman? It's
weird.
Dylan Gabriel and got Sanders in the 5th round. I would still I don't know.
It's just a weird draft. I don't necessarily hate most of the players they took, but because it's the Browns doing it, and because I know enough about them to know this could easily mean literally every player they took could be meaningless in just a few years. That's possible because of where this team is at, is hilarious to me. What was it? I think it was 1, 2. So they made 7 total selections. 4 of them are running backs and quarterbacks. Over half your draft was 2 positions. Running back, which is really good value in this class, but again, might not be on the team by the time you're good, and might not matter because your run blocking is probably not going to be very good with the current group you have. And then 2 quarterbacks, one of whom you pretty much sentenced to death the second you took the second quarterback, because there's no shot he can make it with this team now. Because even if he gets the chance to beat him out, as soon as he isn't good, like you guys said, it's over for him. The fan base will desperately be calling for Shedeur Sanders. And I honestly don't blame them because they took the better quarterback later in the same draft. It doesn't make sense. I just can't get with it, frankly. But I also understand from your perspective, Dalton, because of the value they got on some of the picks. I get it. And future first, it's always awesome to have 2 first-round picks, unless you're the Browns, unfortunately, because that never works out for them typically. But that's besides the point. Anyway, we spent, I think, an adequate amount of time on the Browns there. Jake, who's your either second favorite draft or whoever's left of your favorites? Because we may have talked about some of them. So.
I'm going with another team that I cover, and it's the Steelers.
Okay. I didn't have them in my favorite list.
For the main reason that I think this is a team that, especially coming off the heels of talking about the Browns, I think this is a team that actually best understood what they are. If they get Aaron Rodgers. If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to have a lot of questions. But
I actually don't care at all, personally. It matters nothing.
I like Will Howard, but I
that's not even why. I just
take Sanders in the 4th round, if you're not going to get Rodgers. But Derek Harmon I love in the 1st round. I think it's at that point, I think that makes the most sense. I really like getting Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. You didn't have to trade up at all. They kind of got help because running backs really weren't coming off the board as fast as I thought they would.
Yeah.
But I think he's a really nice complement to what they have in the backfield already. He's going to fit really well in Arthur Smith's wide zone offense. I really like the fit there. I just think, like, especially with those first 2 picks, I think those were their 2 biggest needs, and I think they got good value, good prospects at both. Jack Sawyer, I was a little surprised they took an edge rusher in the 4th round, but I think it's good value for Sawyer, and I can understand it, like, they have a lot of injuries to that unit, like, over the years. TJ Watt will sign a contract extension at some point, but he does only have 1 year left on his deal. The main thing I think Sawyer helps with is run defense, and in the 5th round they took Y.A. Black. Really like him in terms of not only double dipping on defensive tackle, which was their worst depth area, but he's just a run stopper. He's going to clog up the middle even when he's getting double teamed. So to me, that's just like they understand their needs, and I don't think they really reached on anybody. The 7th round, I don't really get what they're doing. Well, I get why they took Carson Bruner.
We know why.
That's just a Steelers thing to do.
We know.
But Dante Kent, they could.
Whatever.
He can play slot corner, and that is a weak area. Don't know if that's the one I would have taken in that scenario, though.
They picked up a better slot corner on undrafted free agency, so
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Whatever. Yeah.
If I'm complaining about 1 7th round pick, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. And I like Will Howard as well in the 6th round. I think that's good value. I think they really just, not to talk about Sanders any more than we need to, but I think they just didn't really want him as a backup in that room. So in that case, I don't mind taking Will Howard in the 6th. I think he's a nice little piece you can develop, and maybe he becomes something, maybe he doesn't. But I just think this team understood their needs the most. They didn't make any like big reaches or rash decisions. It was a Steelers draft. It was quiet, and they built through the trenches. And yeah, I just think they filled the spots they needed to better than really any other team.
I want to let you go talk about this if you want to a little bit, Dalton, because I have some thoughts. Mostly good ones, but I have some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they were kind of like upper middle of the pack for me. And I mean, I love all their picks. Like their first 3 picks I thought were good picks. Harmon's, I felt like the value, they got Harmon right where I thought he should go. Caleb Johnson and Jack Sawyer, both I thought were kind of steals. I think they got them both a round or 2 later than I thought they were going to go. So they were both, I think they were both in my top 50 actually. But yeah, I think for me the biggest thing is they came out of that draft and the best quarterback on their roster is still probably Mason Rudolph. And I just don't get how you can do that. That just feels like, honestly, that just feels like franchise malpractice. But then again, they're still going to win 10. If Mason Rudolph is their quarterback next year, they will still win 10 games. So what do I know?
I should say this ranking is contingent on the fact that they're getting Aaron Rodgers, because that's the only thing that I can conclude is that it makes too much sense that he's going to go there, and that's why they waited till Will Howard. If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, I won't be as high on this draft, because then it's like, okay, Mason Rudolph. I don't even think they win.
Like relying,
but
relying on. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say that was like a condition for me. So that I kind of assume they're getting him in that scenario, because I do agree with the fact that like if they don't get him and you leave this draft with Mason Rudolph, I'm gonna be a bit lower on it.
Yeah, but like, and then that's like, if that is the plan to rely on Aaron Rodgers, it's just like, one, you're relying on him to decide to play football. Then you're relying on him to decide to play for the Steelers, not try to parlay all this into like joining whatever contender has a quarterback injury in preseason. And then finally, you're relying on him to actually still be able to play football, which after what we saw last year is still very much in question. I just don't know. And the next best option is maybe Will Howard, if Will Howard turns out to be better than Mason Rudolph. And right now, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. So My thoughts have nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't exist to me until he does. It's kind of like one of those things where it's I have very much object permanence when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. It's like, okay,
I can't see him.
Like he exists somewhere, but until I see him, he doesn't actually exist to me. So that's where I'm at with him, right? When he sits in front of a press conference and says he's a Steeler, I will acknowledge that he exists. Until then, he doesn't. He's just a figment of my imagination and one I wish would go away. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. So this draft has nothing to do with him, in my opinion. But for me, obviously, Derek Harmon, very high on my board. Love that pick. It's who I wanted. I was very happy. I was relieved when that pick came in because I was like, okay, they didn't do the stupid stuff they could have done. Awesome. Caleb Johnson, the third round, objectively a steal, specifically because of the type of offense and running game that Arthur Smith wants to run. Could not have probably taken anyone better who wasn't also Ashton Jeanty / Marion Hampton. So, like, at that point, I don't care. That's very good value for me. Now, here's where and this is where I differ from Dalton specifically, which is, of course, and then Jake even a little bit. I don't know if I would have drafted Jack Sawyer till the 7th round, personally. I do not think he's an NFL player long term. I don't think he has the play strength even at his size to hold up as an edge setter type, and I think he has next to zero ability to rush the passer whatsoever at the NFL level. So to me, I think he is, but basically doesn't exist to me either until he does. Like, he's a pick that if he works out as a fourth edge, cool. I don't even know if he's better than like some of the fourth edges that you could have gotten on the free agent market right now. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. The YA Black pick makes a lot of sense because, and I actually have an article coming out about this tomorrow, because they haven't had that hulking, like, interior run defender type for a long time. And I think it's been one of the things that has kept them from really kind of establishing a consistent run defense, because they have flashes of brilliance throughout the year because Cam Hayward is so good, even without being a true nose tackle. Benton can make plays on the run. He's not a really good run defender overall, but he will make plays in the run game. You know, the linebackers played the run pretty well for a long time in that group. So this should help make them hopefully a more consistent run defense, if not an elite one, at least a more consistent week-to-week one. Taking Will Howard in the 6th round is fine. I think I would have taken him in the 4th, 5th round just as a developmental backup type. I think he has decent athleticism. He has enough arm strength, all that stuff. Accuracy is where he kind of gets a little scattershot. I don't love that, but maybe he can rein that in at the next level. We've seen guys do that. And then again, the 7th round picks, you know, whatever. Dante Kent, good for you getting drafted. Carson Bruner, you know why you got drafted, bro. I'm happy for you, though. You know, good for you. Hope your dad's happy. You know, it is what it is. But overall, I think it was a really good draft for the Steelers. In totality, there's just a lot of players that were on the board in the 4th round that I think could have helped this team, where I don't think Jack Sawyer will help this team. So that's kind of what kept them from being a top 3 draft for me, ultimately. So that's my overall thoughts on that. So, but I know at this point we've kind of gotten a little bit lost in the sauce here when it comes to like where we're at favorite-wise. I think I'm on to my 2nd favorite draft now, is where we're at this point, I'm pretty sure. That you guys have both given your 2nd. But for me, one of the ones I want to shout out, Panthers, I think, did a really good job in this draft. Really, really good job. Tet went earlier than I would have taken him, but I do understand you have a young quarterback that started to figure it out last year. The receiving core is either weirdly old when it comes to Thielen or kind of boom or bust still. So getting a guy that at least has a size profile that should make him a reliable target, could kind of be a pseudo like safety blanket type for them. You build with him. Hopefully him and Young can get some connection going. He's used to playing with a smaller quarterback that kind of has to do some weird stuff to make it work. So maybe that plays to his advantage there. So I really like that for them. I think I am glad it wasn't Jalen Walker basically as well, because that's what we thought for a long time. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that if I'm taking a guy in the top 10. I don't know if I could take a guy that I don't know for sure what his position at the next level is. So there's that. But getting Nick Scarton and Princely Von Mielen on the edge in the 2nd, 3rd round is a sick combination to me. Like, getting both of those dudes in your edge room when you had no pass rush last year, one of those two is probably going to hit relatively big, in my opinion. Like, Scarton, I think, could have gone in the 1st round, or very easily. I think he doesn't because of the weird Texas A&M year, but, like, if you were a Texas A&M defensive lineman last year, you might be able to sue for compensation. Like, that might be what ends up happening. Like that whole group just didn't produce the way that you think they should. And I really think it's because of the scheme and what they're asked to do. I really don't think it's because the players are necessarily good or bad. I think it's just how it was. So you kind of have to separate that from them. And if you look back at 2023, Scorton was a menace at Purdue, like truly a freak at Purdue. So I'm going to kind of hope that he's that player. Monmielen, obviously really, really good speed rusher type kind of guy. You hope that he can kind of win off the edge. Trevor Etienne was a weird pick to me. I don't necessarily like it or dislike it. I just like, what is this? Does this mean Jonathan Brooks doesn't exist anymore? I know he's injured right now, but like, do you just not, because like you paid Chuba Hubbard, you have Rico Dowdle you brought in. Now it's a 1-year deal, but like, so Etienne's probably going to be the third running back to start the season, and then if Brooks comes back, is he the fourth running back? I don't know. It's a little weird, but like I think it's fine because he's a solid running back. Lathan Ransom, totally fine safety. They need more depth there. Cam Jackson, I like as a run defender. I got to him kind of late in the process. I thought he was pretty fun. Mitchell Evans, whatever, like could be a whatever tight end. Maybe he's a third or second tight end, maybe even. And then Jimmy Horn Jr., another receiver out of Colorado. A bunch of them obviously in this class. I think it's fine. You're just taking a flyer late. I just think those first 3 picks especially are just really, really good value for them.
Yeah, they were like one of my honorable mentions from the top. Like they were just outside there. Yeah, I don't even like the Tet pick that much just because I would have liked to see them go defense. But
me too. But I do like it more than I would have to another team in that same range. So that's why I was okay with it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, they made up for it with what they did with DHU. I mean, the Scorton pick, you don't need, it doesn't even, like, that would have been I would have accepted, had you had taken Scorton where they took Tet, I wouldn't have been, like, too mad about it. I would have been like, okay, you really like big edge rushers? That's your guy, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, he's going to be a quality NFL player, so I really like their drafting. My favorite pick out of their class, though, is the Ransom pick. I
know you liked him a lot, so I thought you might like that. Yeah.
I mean, I like safeties that go boom. That's really what it comes down to. I like.
We need a shirt that says that, dude. We need that to be a shirt for sure. That's the first shirt if we ever make shirts for this channel. It's going to be I like safeties that go boom. Yeah, that's definitely got to be on the shirt.
That's what he does. That's what he does, and he does it really well. He does the other little things really well, and it's really funny because, like, in our other show, I feel like I spent like half of last year shitting on the Ohio State secondary, and then I ended up loving the Ohio State secondary in this draft class. Yeah. It's kind of funny how that worked out.
Hey, it happens, but. No, that's pretty cool. Any thoughts you want to throw out there on the Panthers, Jake?
I think you guys summed them up pretty well. They're one of my favorites, especially at the top. I love the Tet pick. I was higher on him, I think, than most, but I just like helping out Bryce Young a little bit. But yeah, I was pretty high on the Panthers class.
Any other drafts you guys want to throw out as some of your favorites before we just talk a little bit about least favorites here?
Eagles did it again.
I like
they be doing that. I almost am like, do I need to talk about the Eagles?
I know.
Like, and we can for a second, like as a group, but like, so I understand there's injury stuff, right? With a Campbell, like I understand that. I think sometimes the league, and I mean this half joking, half serious. I think some teams should take one for the team, even if they think a player isn't worth the pick, and just take them so the Eagles don't get them. Like, I've felt that way for a while where I'm like, maybe you don't love this player as much as consensus, but maybe let's just pretend for a second that if he goes to the Eagles, he's going to be awesome, and let's just not let that happen, right? Like, I think that's a valid draft strategy for certain teams to just be like, let's take the player that we think the Eagles would take if he made it there. You know what I mean? Like, that might be the best way to draft. Like, if you're picking in, like, the 15 to 25 range, and there's a player that screams, like, man, if that guy makes it to 28 to the Eagles or 30 to the Eagles, he's going to be a great player for them. Let's just take that guy. Like sometimes I feel like that would actually be a viable draft strategy. But of course, no, they get Campbell at 31. Now has some shoulder injury stuff apparently. I don't care.
Yeah.
They have Zach Bond right now.
Exactly.
And guess what? They drafted maybe other Zach Bond potentially.
Yep.
Like, what do you like? So they're like, oh, we paid Zach Bond, but what if we had two? Like, Howard Rose was like, oh, what if we had two of them? Around. Yeah, they're like, where's one of them at? You don't know. Oh, there goes the other one. Like that's what they basically did. It's like, all right, get Andrew Makuba. I love that fit for them because he's sort of like a ball hawking type of safety. You lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and the weird like trade with the Texans, which whatever. Ty Robinson is definitely an Eagles defensive lineman if I've ever seen one in my entire life. Like he'll probably do something for them. You just go down the board like Kyle McCord, who was for me like my fifth quarterback. They just get him for free. Like why not? I guess.
And Cam Williams in the 6th round. Come on.
Yeah, which granted I didn't like Cam Williams that much. I wish he went back to school. But because he went to the Eagles now, he's going to be great in 3 years. In 3 years, he's going to be like a Pro Bowler because it's like he might play guard or whatever. Who cares? They're just like, yeah, just play him somewhere. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, he's just gonna be Lane Johnson in a couple of years.
That even Miles Hinton out of Michigan, like I didn't get to him, but everything I've heard about him, it's like, oh yeah, he profiles like a freaking All-Pro for them in 3 years. Why not?
Yep.
Just going to be Mailata again, just instead of having to go to fucking Australia to get him there, just went to Michigan. Like, who cares? Like, it's the same. They do this every year, and we're all like, oh, I wonder why do the Eagles do so good this year? It's like, yeah, look at the draft they had. Like, what do you mean, why are they so good? They just took all the players anyone else took for no reason. This is literally what it is every year. Like, a part of me is like, I give Howard Roseman obviously a ton of respect. The best GM in the league, if you ask most people. But sometimes I'm like, they're just like, hey, Howie, fuck my shit up. Go ahead. Take this player that I should have taken 2 rounds ago. Just do it. Why not? Like, that's literally what it feels like half the time. It's like,
yeah.
What do you mean? Because they're like, oh, let's get Kenny Pickett in as a backup. What if we got better Kenny Pickett in the 6th round?
Yeah.
Let's just do that instead of keeping Kenny Pickett on the roster. Like, what are we doing?
I am very excited for the Kyle McCord, Tanner McKee quarterback battle this preseason. That's going to be fun backup battle.
Me too. Just 2 dudes slinging it for just fun, just having a good time. We'll love it.
2 guys that are nothing like Jalen Hurts.
Literally not a one bit.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, incredible stuff that they keep doing that. Like most teams, like, let's get a backup in that can kind of replicate what their quarterback does. So the Eagles are like, no, give me the whitest man you know. Find me the whitest man in the room who can sort of throw the football, and I'll take him. That's literally what they did. It's incredible stuff.
Let's back up our running quarterback with guys that look like ostriches when they run.
Literally, it's incredible stuff. I don't know. Like, it's so funny to me that anyway, this is what the Eagles do. It's pretty comical. I don't know. The Eagles, they did a good job. I didn't even think to put them in my list because I'm like, we already know. We don't need to talk about them. Like, I want to shout out. One I wanted to shout out is I think some people don't like this draft, and I just don't get it. I've seen some people not like. I get it. I think I do get it because some people are struggling with the 1st round pick that was made. But I love this player so much and I kind of see what they're doing that I don't care. I think the Bucs did a really good job. I think the Bucs did a really good job in this draft. Like, I understand. Like, is Emeka Egbuka going to probably make a huge impact this year if everyone's healthy? Probably not. But the Bucs weren't healthy last year. The receivers were beat to shit the whole year, and they lost many games because of it, and they probably lost in the playoffs partially because of it too. And they're like, why don't we just make sure that doesn't happen? Like, if Chris Godwin goes down, here's Chris Godwin light right now. Like, literally as a rookie. Just does the same shit, basically. Probably not quite as explosive, in my opinion, but similar type of player. Just throw him in there. Why not? Like, it just makes sense for me from that perspective. Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish, their defensive backs were beat to shit last year. They're like, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Let's draft 2 guys who are better than probably where they were picked, just because they also have some stuff going on. If Morrison's healthy, that's awesome. David Walker, take the swing. He looks like a Bucs edge rusher if I've ever seen one. He's just going to run into dudes at full speed, and they're going to be like, holy shit, what the fuck is this dude going? What's going on here? Like, also, I have to give them respect for taking Tez Johnson and giving him a job, potentially.
Someone had to give him a job.
someone had to someone had to find out, right? Because the tape is like, holy shit, this dude is open every play. But then you're like, oh, but he's 150 pounds and ran a 4.5. What's going on here? Someone had to find out. And if there's ever a team that's going to find out, the Bucs will find out. I'll give them credit. So also shout out Desmond Watson. Got to shout him out. It's not drafted free agent too. So
yeah, I like the Bucs draft. I mean, my favorite pick to mock to the Bucs in the first round was Ben Morrison, and they got him in the second.
Right, so because the injury stuff. How do you feel about it, Jake? Because I want to give you a chance there too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of theirs. I kind of found myself in this class being a fan of a lot of
there wasn't many actual like bad drafts. There was just ones that sometimes confused the shit out of me. Like I was like, I don't know about that. But sure.
I'm a big David Walker fan. I think he was one of the better FCS players in the country last year. Benjamin Morrison, I'm a huge fan of that pick. Yeah, that was a good one. I liked Edbuka in the first round. I saw some kind of conflict.
I understand it, but like also if you think about it for a second, you're like, I understand.
Yeah, you know that you're getting a good receiver, and it's hard for me to complain about that. Yeah, I was a pretty big fan of their class.
Yeah. Any others you guys want to shout out before we kind of just do a little bit more like least favorite before we get out of here?
I got one.
I'm good.
Okay, go ahead.
The Titans.
Oh, they're on my list. Yeah, talk about that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even a big fan of the Cam Ward pick. I think for them, I don't know if they were close enough to take a guy that might not work out there. But whatever. If you feel like he's your guy, you got to do it. But Kevin Winston Jr. in the third round is a steal and a half. That's just full. And then Gunnar Helm and Elik Iomenor in the fourth round. I mean, I had a first round grade on Iomenor. I cannot believe that he went that late. I mean, I'm glad someone finally pounced on him. And then Gunnar Helm, I thought was a clear, like earlier day 2 guy. And to get both of those guys in the fourth round, I thought, the value they got on day 2 and 3 was just mind blowing.
Yeah, hold on. My camera is, of course, being weird as I'm getting ready to talk about the Titans. No, I get the Cam Ward pick because, I think, regardless of whether you had Sanders 1, Ward 1, whatever, which I ended up with Ward at 1 by the end of the process, he's the guy that at least has the chance to actually make good on the first overall pick, in my opinion, even if he has also a higher chance of being actually bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of have to play that game, I think, with the first overall pick to some degree in a draft like this. So I get it. Everything else they did for the most part, like I will say the one thing that kind of kept me from making them like a slam dunk top 3 draft for me is I didn't like the Oladejo pick at 52.
I agree.
Like he could, but he has the potential to work out there. But I just think there was better edge rushers there that could help them right now, right? The Kim Winston Jr. pick though, like dude, like come on. Like, that dude rocks. I'm sorry. I don't care. Chimere Dike out of Florida. I wouldn't have taken him this early, and also there's a lot of receivers I liked more than him still on the board, but it's what it is. Gunnar Helm, totally fine pick. I think he is probably like a low-end number 1 tight end, but he could be a nice like receiving tight end 2 type for a team. Iomanor, sick pick. Like I understand like some people didn't like him. I think partially it was like he tested better than he maybe looked on the field at times as an athlete for some people. I think people had issues with the drops with him where his hands were pretty inconsistent. In the fourth round, I don't care if all those things are true. He's probably going to return more value than most players would with a fourth round pick. Then you take just kind of flyer Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State, stand up. If you're Jake. So there's that. Cornerback out of California, Marcus Harris. Didn't watch him, but taking a flyer there. And then Khalil Mulling is out of Michigan. Whatever, they like their bruising backs to have as backups. So that's kind of what he falls in. Really like that draft. But what did you think, Jake?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of theirs. I am a big fan, especially of the receivers they got.
Yeah.
I'm a big Chimere.
Okay, so you like him. Okay.
Yeah, I honestly wasn't really expecting him to go.
Me either. I thought he was a 5th or 6th player, yeah.
Like, I'm not upset with that one at all. Getting Elik Iomenor after him.
Hilarious to me.
Surprising, but I like that too. I'm a big Jackson Slater fan, so anywhere he went, I was going to like. And I mean, hopefully they got their QB of the future, and that alone can make it a worthwhile draft sometimes. So yeah, I like a lot of the things they did as well. They were one of the teams I was higher on.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some least favorites. I don't want to keep us on too late, but I'll start it off. And I hate to do this because like part of me is like I kind of think it's sick what they're doing, but also another part is me like, but I don't think it's going to make them a better team in the sense of like fixing the issues that they're going to have. But I really didn't love the Niners draft. I really didn't. Like, I understand, like, clearly they're like, hey, you're not going to run for a yard on our defense next year. Not a single one. You take Mike Williams at 11, significantly too high for me. I didn't have him in my top 50 players. I think he's a run-first oriented edge that has some pass rush potential, but I don't think he's quite the like athletic freak that a lot of Georgia defenders have been in the past, and that's why I think some people are higher on him because they think that he will be. I just don't see a pass rusher that is going to give you anything more than like middle tier second edge rusher type of production, but he is going to be great against the run, which they clearly like because their next pick is Alfred Collins, which is closer to the value I had on Alfred Collins. So I don't really dislike that pick as a whole, but again, run defense first. Then you get Nick Martin, who, okay, typical Niners third round pick where I'm like, that dude was drafted about 150 spots higher than I thought he was going to get drafted. So that's interesting. But, you know, they like their linebackers. Maybe we'll be wrong about that one. Upton Stout is a fun player at pick 100. I don't know. I just don't know about that one. CJ West I really like. That's, again, but run defense. They haven't drafted a dude who I think can get 50 pressures or even 40 pressures consistently yet in this draft. And we're at pick, 113, and they don't have a pass rusher opposite of Bosa, really. Don't love that. Jordan Watkins, he had like one game against Arkansas, and like that might have been it as far as I understood. Like he was kind of fast and had like 250 yards and like 5 touchdowns or something stupid in one game or whatever it was. But that was kind of his whole production for the most part. Feels like a guy that Kyle Shanahan would like, though. Jordan James, I know you're probably a big fan of that one, Jake. I think you're a big Jordan James guy, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. They just took a bunch of players where I'm like, I get what the vision is, but like, are you really just concerned about just stopping every running back in the league? Like, it's almost felt like they're like, we got to prepare to play the Eagles. And it's like, dude, you got to get to the point where you play the Eagles first. Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, they're one of your biggest competitions, but you haven't even gotten to the point where they're your competition for them yet. Like, what do you like? That's ultimately what I thought with that one. But
yeah, they were one of my 2 lowest graded drafts.
It's just
And I even really liked the Williams and Collins picks. Like I was higher on both those guys. I really like those picks, like the Jordan James pick on day 3. But for me, my biggest issue is you have big needs on the offensive line. Offensive line's your biggest need, especially at tackle, where you know your best tackle has a lot of injury issues, and the guy that backed him up last year just signed a big contract with the Chiefs. And what did the Niners do? They don't draft an offensive lineman until Connor Colby in the 7th round.
Woohoo,
like,
Connor Colby.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, and for a team whose offense is so reliant on having good offensive line play, like for a team that your running game is the focal point of your offense. For a quarterback with Brock Purdy's skill set, it only works if you can protect him. And you're just like, and you have offensive line issues, and you're like, you know what? We're just not going to draft an offensive lineman. And I just don't get it. That was the thing. Yeah, that was one of the dumbest things I've seen.
It's just really lackluster.
Yeah, it's
just in general. Like, for me, it's just okay. Like I don't. It's just a disappointing kind of class.
Like again, like I clearly like if you were going to ask me like. What did the Niners think of this class? Like they thought that they need to stop the run and they're going to take all the run stoppers they can find. And like that's cool and all, but like the run game's coming back, guys. I agree with that. Like the Niners are probably thinking, man, like okay, teams run the ball so well, and like we couldn't run the ball as well as we wanted to. Like, I know. What if we just make it so no one can run on us? It's like, okay, they still can throw the ball. Who's stopping that from happening? You lost chunks of your secondary. Mustafa, the safety for them, Malik Mustafa, I thought was going to have a chance to replace Hufanga for them towards ACL apparently, and we didn't even realize that. I didn't hear about it until a couple weeks ago now, or like a week ago now. He's going to miss the season. Like, we're probably miss the full season. Their secondary is battered to hell and was last year, and it's not any better now than it was. Like, Upton Stout is, I guess, their answer is help in the secondary. I just don't, like, what are they going to do against teams that can put the ball in the air?
Yeah. And also, like, they also drafted, like, their defense was so terrible. And it's like, overall, it's like, the defense was, average, Like, it wasn't.
Like they needed reinforcements, especially inside. Yeah. And they did that.
But they just ignored everything else to just shore up their front seven. It was really weird.
Yeah, I just don't get it because they're going to pay Brock Purdy a lot of money, seemingly. And they're going to be like, go out there, kid, figure it out. And it's going to be like George Kittle trying to catch 20 passes a game and Brandon Ayuk trying to get back from his injury. And I just don't know, dude.
Unless
okay,
Galaxy Brain.
Here we go. Let's have it.
This job.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's do it. I'm all for it.
Just the new Brock Purdy.
Give me another 7th-round pick to win the job.
That's kind of similar in a lot of ways, too.
Rourke the thing is he's big and slow, but a really accurate passer. And Purdy is smaller and faster and also like kind of an accurate passer. So like it's kind of the same type of player, different flavor. And it's kind of funny that you say that. But also I'm pulling for that to happen, mostly because I think it'd be really funny for the Niners to address their quarterback issue with 2 different 7th-round picks within like 5 years of each other. That's just very fun. Like, talk about Kyle Shanahan having the most quarterback-proof offense in NFL history. No one would be able to tell him shit about nothing if he makes Rourke an actual starting quarterback. Like, that'd be the funniest thing he could do. But that's, again, not their issue right now.
What Jimmy Garoppolo looked like in San Francisco and then seeing what he looked like in Vegas, I'm convinced that anyone can play quarterback in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Except for Trey Lance, apparently. So.
Yeah.
No offense to Trey Lance, but apparently everyone except for Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Any other? I have a couple I could throw out there. But any other like least favorite drafts for you guys you want to highlight here?
Yeah.
I don't like the Saints.
Here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I really don't like the Saints draft.
Okay.
I actually do like Kelvin Banks.
Yeah.
Where they took him, I don't hate that pick. You cannot convince me that Tyler Shah is worth the 4th overall pick. There is literally not a single thing that a single person could tell me that will make me believe that you should spend the 40th overall pick in a weak quarterback class on Tyler Shah. He's going to be 26, and he's had three different career-ending injuries in college.
Season-ending, yeah. Dude, when I saw Tyler Shuck's name come up,
come on, man. Take Jalen Milroe or something.
Yeah, when I saw Tyler Shuck's name pop up at pick 40, I was like, "That's so funny." Because I actually don't hate Tyler Shuck that much. Not at pick 40. Not at pick 40 though, but like.
I'm sure he's a great guy, but you could not have been taken with the 40th.
You hate to hear it when someone's like, "I'm sure he's a great guy." When talking about a draft pick in the 40s, that's terrible. It's diabolical. Actually, no. Like the Kelvin Banks pick makes total sense to me. Like it's a little early for me, even for someone who likes him, but it's fine. If you think offensive linemen in the top 10, who I think are good, I'm probably gonna be like, dude, sure, whatever, man.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So Tyler Shuck at 40, Dalton and I are both dying. This is so funny, like to think about the Saints doing this because it's like, dude, oh no, guys, what are we gonna do? Derek Carr is hurt. What are we gonna do? Who's gonna play quarterback for us? And Tyler Shuck comes out from behind the curtain, like, what about me? And they're like, yeah, we need you. You backed up Justin Herbert once upon a time.
it's like
6 years ago, you backstabbed Justin Herbert.
It's such a weird class, right? And it's like, and when this was like, a day after we thought the Giants were absolutely off their rocker, trading into the first round.
It turns out,
and this might be worse than that. I really think this might be worse than.
It's worse simply because
Jackson Dart.
It's simply worse just because I don't like Jackson Dart at all, but at least he's 22, and he's kind of talented a little bit. There's potential there.
You can talk yourself into him being a starter. That's good.
Yeah, Tyler Shuck is going to be 26 years old. I think we need to repeat that.
He's going to be 30 when his rookie contract expires.
Again, what are we talking about?
Just take a quarterback next year. You don't burn a second-round pick. I just can't do that. And then, I like Devin Neal.
Oh, me too. I like that one.
I like Danny Stutzman. Maliki Matavo.
Sure.
Can't block. He'll catch passes. He can't block. Vernon Broughton, yeah. It's really just I can say at least they had a plan. I don't like the plan.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
And then
can
we talk about Danny Stutz? If you're gonna take a linebacker in the 4th round, he should in the way the league values linebackers today. If you're gonna take a linebacker in the 4th round, there's at least a chance that he can be an every down starter for you. That you at least hope he can possibly be that. There's no way you can watch Danny Stutz tape and think that he is anything other than 3rd and short, red zone, and special teams. That's it. And a backup. That is it. That is all that man will ever be. I'm sorry, but that is just not an NFL linebacker in the year 2025. Maybe in 1985. Maybe even 2005. But not today.
Yeah. It's just hard for me to like their class. It's really hard. I would have to seriously convince myself to like
quarterbacks who are going to be about the age or younger than Tyler Shuck this year. Will Levis, Jordan Love, is younger than him. Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, Bo Nix. Justin Herbert's about the same age as him, roughly. Sam Darnold is somehow only 2 years older than him. What are we doing? Saints, man. I don't know. They can't stop being themselves. I don't think Broughton was a terrible pick. I think Sanker was okay value. I liked him a good bit.
Yeah, I like that.
Danny Stutzman is what the fuck, dude? What do you mean? All right. If that's what you want. Quincy Riley would have been drafted higher if he was healthier last year, and because he was a pretty solid player. Devin Neal, I love Devin Neal, but I fear he's going to just go there to die because it's the Saints. So they're just going to run him into the ground for 4 years, and his career's going to be over. Yeah, man, I don't know. So the NFC North was weird in this draft for me. I don't know about you guys. The Vikings just didn't.
I was going to talk about that.
They just didn't have a lot to work with, but getting Donovan Jackson, I think, is good. Obviously, I think that's really good player for them to round out their offensive line for the next few years at least. Taking Ty Felton at 102, I don't even really dislike Ty Felton that much. You couldn't find someone else to draft for a team that you just don't need more offensive firepower. I'm sorry. I know it's all about make J.J. McCarthy work. If he can't work with what you had before you took Ty Felton, jettison him into the sun. Actually, what do you mean? I don't even again, it's not even against Ty Felton. I think he's a fine player. You didn't need to take him at the end of the 3rd round when you have just negative corners outside of Byron Jones or whatever. Not even Byron Murphy. I don't know. That's whatever. Kobe King, funny. It's a funny player to draft. I don't know why. It's just funny to think about. Gavin Bartholomew, get out of here, dude. You drafted some dude Bartholomew.
That's literally like a NCAA 25 like recruit.
And he has like the grayest hair you've ever seen for some reason. Like every player in that game does, every prospect. But I wasn't even talking about the Vikings when I was talking about the NFC North. The Lions, dude. Ew. What the hell happened at pick 70? What did I miss with Isaac Tesla? I thought he was a good like developmental 6th round receiver who didn't do fucking anything at the FBS level. But it was like, yeah, he's big and he could be a big slide, he's athletic. You moved up to pick 70 and you took him with all the receivers that were still on the board. You could have had Jalen Noel.
Yeah.
Or Noel, whatever. I don't even remember how to say his name. They fucked me up, so I don't even know how to say his name. And like Tyler Williams, I love as a run defender. 28, a little rich for me personally. When there was edge rushers on the board that really could have helped out opposite of Hutchinson. And then Tate Ravlich, fine. I think it's a good pickup. They need offensive line in the future, especially.
Not great, though.
Value wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't like good value. It was fine. I get it. And then you give up basically the rest of your like high value picks to get Isaac Tesla.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
I like Isaac Tesla.
I don't have a problem with him as a player in general in the 6th round.
To the 3rd round is just insane.
Like he's the definition of a swing.
Moving up for him, I just don't think you had to.
No. And if you did, let someone else do it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, like when Tim's like, well, we didn't think he was going to make it to us. I'm like, good. Then don't he won't make it to you then. Okay, take somebody else. What do you mean? I'm sorry. Like he better start week 1. Like he better be out there like 45 snaps week 1, or else I'm going to have a lot of questions about this selection. I'm sorry. That's another one. Like,
you know what? This is unrelated, but I was thinking about this when on like day 3 of the draft. I was like, the Browns drafted like the PFF mock draft.
Yeah,
it just takes like multiple players at the same position. Like they did it with 2 different, but like they had like what PFF would do, taking like a running back like 1st and 2nd round or something.
That's true. That's actually really that's very true. Also, I hate to say this. Oh, go ahead, Dalton. Yeah,
while we're on the NFC North, my least favorite draft actually came out of this division.
I think I know who it is, and it's about what I was about. It's the team I was about to talk about.
Do they rhyme with hairs?
Oh no, then no. I did not. No. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you can talk about the Packers then if you want first.
Okay. Because the Packers did this thing where they got me in round 1. They had me. They had my attention with the first pick. They finally, after 20 plus damn years, they gave the people what they wanted. They did what they were supposed to do. They added to a receiver room that is full of receiver 3s. Receiver 3 for as far as you could see. Receiver 3s on the roster. And they took a dude who could at least be maybe a receiver 1 for them especially, right? With Matthew Golden, my number 1 receiver. I love the pick. And then they immediately were like, no, never mind. We're not going to make you like this draft anymore, Shayne. We had you for a second. Anthony Dalton, you just paid like $1 billion for Aaron Banks for no fucking reason. You drafted offensive lineman last year. I don't know if he's going to, maybe he could be the future tackle at one spot. I just thought it was too early for a player that I just didn't love that much. And then you take Savion Williams at 87. When you have Jaden Reed, who's already kind of gadgety in some cases, is he going to play running back? Like, what position is he going to play for you? You have 17 receivers. Like, is he going to make the team? Like, what's going on?
He's the new Ty Montgomery. That's what he is.
That specific pick really, really, really threw me for a loop. Especially like 2 selections after taking Golden. I'm just
specifically the Packers though. They took a receiver who needs time to develop and reps and figuring out ways to and he's going to be like the receiver 9 on the initial depth chart.
I just can't believe they took 2 receivers in their first 3 picks. That's not what
I
I would have done.
I don't get it. Like Baron Sorrell, whatever, it's fine. What they got me for like a night, and then they're like, "What if we confuse you the whole rest of the time?" And that bothered me. But Dalton, I want to hear what you say about the Bears because I could see a path to not liking their draft. I have questions about several picks, but I don't dislike it overall. So I'm curious what your thoughts are here.
So yeah, a lot of thoughts. So let's start off with the Loveland pick. So
early.
Also, I mean, I get some teams had Loveland ahead of Warren.
Right.
I can talk myself into that for a lot of teams. The Bears are not one of those teams. Because here's the thing. The Bears already had a decent tight end in Cole Kmet. I don't know why the Bears seem to hate him, but I like Cole Kmet.
He's fine.
Loveland is kind of exactly like Cole Kmet. And in terms of build, maybe a little bit more ability to play in line. But I don't know. I feel like he's more of a replacement for Cole Kmet than he is a complement to him. And then, whereas Warren would have been like a perfect duo. And then also, like, you have so many needs. Tight end just felt like pretty far down the list. I mean, I would have understood it if you were like, yeah, Warren's this great weapon. But it felt like you just took a tight end because you needed a tight end with the Loveland pick. And I just don't really get that. And then the biggest thing, too, is, like, you look at the rest of that. I mean, not a big fan of using a 2 on Trapillo. But the biggest thing, I mean, and now I'll give them credit. Like, they got lucky, and Luther Burden fell to them. That was a good pick. That was probably one of the better picks in the draft overall. But I think that was just kind of an accident. I don't think Luther Burden was supposed to fall that far. I think that was just kind of a look what I found pick. I mean, really?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he just happened to be there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if he makes them that much better because, like, he's still probably going to be the number 2 or number 3 in that offense, at least right away. And then the biggest thing is, like, we were talking a week before the draft about them, like, maybe they move up to 5 to get a running back because they really need a running back. And they didn't take one till the 7th with Kyle Managi or whatever his last name is. Like,
Kyle Managi, respect. RB1, bro.
Like, what are we doing in what was a great running back class? In running back was probably their biggest need, and they were just like, no, we're good. We're good on all these guys. And they had so many opportunities to take all of these running backs, and they were just like, nah, we're okay. I mean, really, I think they got one starter.
Yeah, I liked Burden.
Yeah, that was it.
Other than that, there really just isn't much to be. And I like Loveland also, obviously, but
2 starters. Yeah,
I have to agree. I don't know if I would have went tight end.
Yeah,
I would have if I was the Bears. I would have offered something to the Raiders for number 6.
Yeah.
I
think the Raiders should have told you to go fuck yourself. Yeah. But, you know, either way.
Maybe, but yeah, using your last pick on running back, and that's the only running back you take.
It's like we forgot.
You know, like that's the problem, right? Is like if you told me that the Bears' first 3 picks were what they were, like because I like Trapillo a good bit. I think he could be a starting tackle for them, but getting Loveland at 10 is like it's early for me. I think Warren's better. I do think he's more athletic than Cole Kmet by a decent margin, and he has more upside than Kmet ever has had. And I think Ben Johnson views him as like his Laporta, which if he becomes that, that's awesome. But again, it's a little early for me, and I think there's better players on offense and defense than him available, so it's hard for me to be super happy with that. Burden that late is obviously really good value. I do wonder, like, what the plan is there because he's not really a Monter St. Brown at all, but, like, probably has to play in the slot a lot of the time. Maybe it's Z too. So it's a little weird, but he's a good value there. I don't mind Trapillo. Shamar Turner is such a, like, I don't know if he's going to be good, but sure. I don't really hate that just because it's a good, like, lottery ticket type. Ruben Hippolyte? Who's that?
I have no idea.
Because he ran a 4.42 at like 240 pounds as linebacker or whatever he weighed in. And I'm like, that's really cool. I didn't know who that was.
No.
So I don't know if I care.
Can we just talk for a second about, like, who are all these Maryland guys getting drafted? Like, Maryland was terrible last year, and they had so many guys getting drafted.
That tells you a lot about. So it's either that they think that Maryland should have been good and the players weren't the problem, or I don't know. Like Ty Felton ran real fast. Prather was productive 2 years ago. Ruben Hippolyte apparently is the most athletic dude to ever exist on the planet Earth, according to what I heard about him after the draft. And I was like, okay. In the 4th round, when like there was like real actual players still being drafted. I don't know if I can get behind that. I like the Zay Frazier pick. I like that because of developmental corner. Mononga I actually think is good value where they got him, but again, where the hell is the running back pick? Like Mononga is the definition of like he's going to get you 4 yards in a cloud of dust most of the time, and he's going to pass protect his ass off. Like good player to have on your team. I don't know if he plays much.
Yeah. Also, like, you took Shamar Turner, like, that's nice, but, like, you didn't want Caleb Johnson there?
Yeah, like, you don't want, like, what do you mean? Where was the running back pick?
Yeah.
Ben Johnson must think the world of DeAndre Swift.
Hippolyte's the running back.
Maybe that's what we didn't, he ran a 4.4, we didn't think about it. They're 2 steps ahead, Jake. That's what the problem is. We didn't know. Anyway, he's going to be Miles Jack, but the opposite. Let me find Ruben Hippolyte running back in high school tape. Let me get a hand. Like if it exists, it's over.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, the Lions, man.
Yeah.
Or not the Lions, Bears. Any other teams you want to throw out there, just like that interest you in any way, or just you found interesting?
Real quick before we move on to another team, just fun fact I found it while you were talking.
Oh God.
Maryland had 6 players drafted. They were like, Maryland had the same number of players drafted as Notre Dame, and they had more than Penn State and South Carolina.
Yeah, good for them.
Isn't that just blows my mind? You look at teams with the most, like the schools with the most players drafted. It's like Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Ole Miss, Alabama, Florida, LSU. Florida's kind of wild in there.
They had good players.
Miami and Michigan are kind of crazy a little bit, but then Maryland, it's just like, hold on a second. What are you doing there?
Maryland be putting dudes in the NFL. They just don't do anything until they get there.
I guess.
They end up being good for NFL teams and only like not quite good enough for the college team for them to win like 8 games. I guess what the problem is.
A couple 4 and 5 stars from the Mid-Atlantic region, and then the rest of the roster is just 2 stars.
Yeah, literally. Also, another draft I didn't even think about. I fucking hated the Bengals draft. Absolutely despised the Bengals draft. Because, like, Shamar Stewart is a cool gamble to take and everything. You took maybe the most likely dude who just maybe can't play at edge when you have, like, again, like, you need defenders who can defend something at all. Demetrius Knight Jr., I thought was a fine linebacker prospect. You took him at 49. He's like 25, I think. Yeah. Tyler Shuck again, but linebacker. Dylan Fairchild, fine, good player, I think. Actually, like probably start for them. Barrett Carter, probably like a higher upside linebacker than Demetrius Knight, because at least he's young and athletic and might be able to be a coverage player. But again, can he play for you this year? Probably not. Most linebackers can't in their first year anyway. Jalen Rivers, sure. Taj Brooks, I guess. You need more running backs for sure, right?
Yeah, I don't hate the draft so much as the fact that, like, just at the end of the day, their defense desperately needed to get better, or or they're going to be in really in trouble about that whole roster just revolting if they don't get that defense better really soon. And I'm not convinced that defense is any better.
That's my point. Like Shamar Stewart as a concept.
As a concept.
Is really cool, right? The Bengals haven't developed fucking anything defensively in so long. They had to go pay Trey Hendrickson more money than people thought he was going to get paid because they were like, "Oh, that dude's actually already good. Let's just pay him to be good." The only dude off the edge for them in like a decade that's meant anything, and they draft a guy who might not be able to play, period, based on the production profile, is hilarious to me. It's just so funny. Like, you're telling me you couldn't find anyone in the first round. You're like, yeah, you know what? We're pretty sure that dude's going to be pretty good. And not like, oh, if he's good, he's going to be so good. But he also might be out of the league in 3 years. Like, you might not want to take that guy when you're the Bengals and you have this ready-made super giant offense, ridiculous offense, who just needs the defense to have a pulse, guys.
Yeah.
We're just asking for something. And they gave them nothing, in my opinion, potentially.
Like, Scorton here would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like,
they could have taken Derek Harmon and made me sad. Yeah. They didn't, which I appreciate. Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, here he comes, and then Shamar Stewart, like just laughing. No, it's again, he might end up being awesome, but is he likely going to be awesome like in the next year or two? I don't know. He's probably on like the Trayvon Walker path, which if it gets to the end of it, you're like, oh, that's a good player. Man, Joe Burrow's 30. Jamar Chase is 28. Like, what are we doing, guys?
Is Joe Burrow 30 already?
Oh, he's going to be soon. He's got to be because he was like 24 as a rookie, so.
Still only a couple years older than Tyler Shep.
Well, you know what? So is everyone. So is almost everybody. Oh, my God. Anyway, yeah, I didn't like the Bengals draft very much, if you couldn't tell. I don't know. So many drafts are weird. I'm going to shout out a couple picks real quick. You guys have any that you want to do like while I'm doing that? You guys can think about it. Josiah Stewart's the Rams fucking rocks. It rocks. I love that so much. Like, they're just like, how many absolute menaces can we put on one defensive line who their only goal is to run through your face as fast as they're physically capable of doing? And I love that so much. Like, Stewart getting drafted at 90, for me personally, is great value, first of all. But going to the Rams specifically is, like, the stunts they're going to be able to do. Dude, tackles are going to end up in, like, the hospital. Not even because they got hurt. They're just going to be so confused. They're going to end up having to take, like, a concussion protocol test. Like, where the hell did everyone come from? Who was that even that just beat me? I don't even know who that was because there's 7 of them running around all the time. Like, that's what that Rams front's going to be, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I just the one draft that I just don't. I'm not sure it's going to be like good or not.
Okay,
Giants.
I can't wait. That's one I can't believe we waited this long to talk about the Giants. You're right.
Like,
we're stupid.
They're like, you know what? We made it. We knocked it out of the park with Abdul Carter. All right, now it was like basically here's what happened. I think they drafted Abdul Carter, right? And then they celebrated by going on a 3-day bender. Everyone in that war room, and they were drunk the rest of the draft.
I love the Giants draft specifically because, like, if you take the Jackson Dart out of it, it's the funnest thing that any team could have done. They're just like, let's have fun with every pick that they made. And I think that's awesome. Sometimes that isn't going to be the best thing to do, but I really love when teams are just like, let's just, you know what? Let's just do the thing, you know? Yeah. Like, let's just have fun with it. Oh, God. The Jackson Dart pick, though, dude. They did it. They did the thing.
At least they
I guess, but they still did the thing.
Just give them. You gotta be like. I don't even know what I was gonna say.
They wanted to.
Anything with the Giants. I don't know what they were doing.
Like, there had to have been for them to trade up into the first to get him. There were probably people when they were on the clock at 3 saying, do we do it? What do you guys think? Jackson Dart.
Brian Dable and Joe Shayne were looking at each other like, do we do the thing? And then they decided not to, luckily. But then they're like, but now we can do the thing, right? Like, now we're allowed to do the thing. getting again, the Giants drafting Jackson Dart, it just doesn't get better for content creators like us. Because what did I say the whole draft process is they're not going to take Shedeur Sanders. He doesn't fit. He doesn't have the look. But you know who has the look? Jackson Dart's got the look. He looks like a Giants quarterback. And boy does he.
Anything specific that might make you think
there's just something about, I don't know, he just has this glow about him, the sun really shines off of him really well, I would say is the thing. He's anyway. Getting Abdul Carter, obviously great, but you also are picking third, so good for you that you got to do that. I love the Darius Alexander pick because he is a little bit of an older prospect, but he's going to be awesome, I think, next to Dexter Lawrence because, anyone with any semblance of talent should be good next to Dexter Lawrence by default. So I think that's awesome to have those two paired up.
I just don't trust that I feel like he was just good in the mat.
I get that concern. I will say watching what he did at the Senior Bowl kind of quelled any concerns I had about the competition level. And he's kind of a freak in a lot of ways. So I think because of the type of player he is, he should fit really well next to Dexter. Then we got to talk about him, Jake. We got to talk about him. We got to do it.
I knew he was going to. Yeah.
They did the thing. Him and Cam Scadaboo, of course. Him and
Tyron Tracy.
Yeah, Tyron Tracy. What a hilarious backfield duo that is.
Yeah.
Is that not the funniest running back duo in the league now?
I'm really interested to see how that works out.
Yeah.
He got drafted where I think he should have been drafted.
Certainly closer to where I would have had him, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was honestly worried that a team, and I'm a big fan, but I was worried that a team was
I kind of wanted the
take him significantly early than I think he should have been. So I like where he got drafted. I'm curious to see how this works.
I kind of wish that the Broncos took him at 60 because it'd be really funny if Sean Payton was like, I need this guy on my team. It'd be very funny. But they take another player I actually like a lot with RJ Harvey, which I know a lot of people didn't like, but I like it.
I could not believe
I like it, dude. I like RJ Harvey, man. I get why everyone who doesn't like him, but part of me is like, man, he's going to be really awesome for 4 years, but that's it. He's going to be fucking awesome for the Broncos, in my opinion, but only for 4 years. So that's the issue because he's probably 24, I think, or whatever age he is. But no, that one kind of rocked. But Scadaboo to the Giants, just really funny. Again, a Giants. No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna do that. But Marcus Bowe in the 5th round is also sick to me. That's awesome. He has at least potential. They have somebody in the middle that they can put in guard or even center maybe because unfortunately, John Michael Hippenheim or whatever the fuck John Michael Schmitz. He hasn't been good for them. Maybe he can move into center. There's draft. If you take the Jackson Dart thing out of it, I might have liked it a lot actually, but I just can't. If Jackson Dart's the quarterback of the future, count me out, bro. I'm not into that. Just can't do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's gonna sit for at least a year. He's buried on that depth chart.
Oh no, don't worry. I can see the path. Okay, here's what happens. Russell Wilson starts off the season. Okay, he looks exactly like he did for the Steelers at the end of last season. Just can't do fucking anything right. He gets benched for Jameis Winston in week 6. Jameis Winston goes on a fucking heater for 3 games, throwing the most ridiculous passes with Malik Neighbors you've ever seen in your life. Everything's looking great. And then either he gets hurt, which would make me sad, or he becomes Jameis Winston at some point and inevitably gets himself benched.
5 interception game.
Yeah, 5 interception game. And then week 12, Jackson Dart steps onto the field. Everyone's so excited. And then he immediately gets absolutely fucking annihilated because he can't play. And then Brian Dable, jobless. Joe Shayne, jobless. Mara, looking for another white man to save him. That's how that's going to work out, in my opinion. Drew Aller, maybe he pretends, maybe he calls Eli and be like, please, I'm begging you. I'll give you the whole franchise. I don't care. We'll somehow pay him more money than we're allowed to on the rookie contract scale. Like, whatever you got to do. That's what's going to happen.
That's the thing. Like, I would not be surprised. Like, that's the thing. Like, they traded up for Jackson Dart this year, but like, I feel like they're going to find a way to draft Arch Manning next year because that just seems right.
I don't know, man. I think maybe Arch Manning will be the first quarterback the Saints have drafted in the first round since his grandfather, which would be awesome. That's what I want to see happen because it'd be very funny.
But they got their guy. They got
Tyler. Well, don't worry. By the time the Arch comes out, Tyler will be ready to retire. He'll be ready to hand the reins over to someone else.
Right.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. 2027 rolls around. Chuck's now somehow 38 instead of 28. We're not really sure how that happened, but it works out. And Arch can come in and take over for him. So,
Jesus Christ, quarterback. No, I don't understand the quarterback class.
Yeah, we could take a little bit of time to talk about that before we get out of here. Jake, also, are you okay?
I just can't do it with some of these teams.
You looked like someone, like you were watching someone get absolutely destroyed on live just now. That's what your face looked like. I was like, oh no, something happened that I.
That's what I was thinking about draft. Well, when you were talking about trading up for Jackson Dart and then drafting another quarterback next year, I just a part of me died inside a little bit. Just as soon as I thought about that.
But that's a real thing that would anyone here be surprised if the Giants did that next year?
I wouldn't, and that's the sad thing.
Especially if it's a big white guy.
Well, I mean, there's going to be a couple that could be. Yeah. Drew Aller with the Giants would feed 0 families.
Would be quickly in New York.
Somebody would actually unironically lose their life if Drew Aller was the quarterback of the Giants. I'm not sure who, but someone. Can we say that Cam Ward going 1, obviously great for him because you're going first overall, and I think the Titans aren't the worst team I've ever seen in my whole life, so we'll say about that. But Jalen Milroe might have been the next best quarterback to team fit that happened in the draft, in my opinion. Good value for where you got him because he's a developmental guy. You have somebody who can probably at least make it through a season as a starter before he has to play. You could probably use him creatively in the run game in the meantime. No pressure to start because you have a quarterback that's getting paid very well to at least be a starter this year. I think it's a great fit for him if we're talking about quarterbacks. It's a one quarterback pick where I'm I see the vision potentially.
Yeah, I like, especially, moving on from Geno and then going to Sam Darnold. I was a little bit.
Yeah, I still don't love that in a vacuum.
I can see the vision now with using the pick that they got for Geno on Milroe. I do get it. Yeah. I like him in Seattle. I think that's a good spot.
Or Sam Darnold though.
I like the Seahawks drafted him. Sam Darnold, I don't know how I feel about him, but now knowing that they're not counting on him to be the future, I feel a little bit better. And he still could be, he could perform like he did.
Yeah, he still could become the future. I mean, if we use the third round pick on a quarterback, you don't have to eventually have him start. It's not the end of the world if he doesn't. And maybe he becomes a trade piece if he ends up being good when he does play, but they really like Sam. There you go. I don't know. I just think it makes a ton of sense. I like their draft in general. They did. That's right. They did the thing that we didn't think that they would do, and I love that so much. Because at least Sam isn't guaranteed to be beheaded by week 9. That's good to hear. I'm pretty confident that that's at least not going to happen. It still might be, not a great offensive line in the middle, but it should be maybe NFL caliber opposed to last year. The fact that Geno Smith was even remotely an effective quarterback last year is still funny to me. And it's really hard to express how piss poor the middle of the Seahawks offensive line was. It's really incredible that he was any good, and it's part of why I'm kind of higher on. I'm going to end up being pretty high on the Raiders this year, compared to even I think consensus, because if they can just block for that dude, the receiving core is weird, but I think effective. I think it'll be really good if Gentry is obviously as advertised as well. So just throwing that out there, but Yeah. Any other? Again, we know we've talked about a lot at this point, but any other picks, teams, anything we want to kind of throw out there?
I think we talked about just about everybody.
A lot of teams.
I'm trying to think of something I can't. I think anything that I wanted to talk about. Yeah. I think I've got my rants.
Oh yeah, that's what this needed to be about. Was the rants? I got a few off myself.
Yeah, I had to vent about the Browns. The Browns, but now I feel better.
Oh, the Chiefs had a good draft, unfortunately for everyone. Pretty much.
I didn't think so.
I think Josh Simmons is a top 10 pick if he's healthy. Okay. So that's why, again, I think pick 31. Yeah. I love that for them. He's going to be the future left tackle. Pick 32. I think he'll be the future left tackle for them. Omar Lott was a little bit early for me, but he fits exactly what they lost from Wharton. So I think that's a good pick. Gelati early, very early for me, but he fits. I was talking to, I think you guys beforehand, he fits what they want in edge rushers, though, so I think he'll be better than he probably would be for a lot of other teams. Jalen Royals at pick 133. What was going on with that? I still can't really figure that out. I mean, Ty Felton at 102 earlier in the draft, but you can't take Jalen. Jalen Royals goes to the Vikings, but you don't need Jalen Royals, but I'll take him. That's kind of sick.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. That one was weird. Brashard Smith also probably going to be good just because he went to the Chiefs. So,
yeah. Wide receiver in general was just a position group where, the league, I felt was very far off from where, most of the consensus was.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
Just looking at, Ty Felton is probably one of the best examples of, just
what?
I don't know what the league's thinking there, but Burden falling out of the first round.
A lot of people were talking about that happening, so I'm not surprised. But
yeah, Iomenor falling as far as he did. I thought, those were kind of crazy. And then, Pat Bryant being a third-round pick was pretty surprising.
I like Pat for what he is, but man, Sean Payton, I hope you work your magic, bro. Because even though I love Harvey, it's still I don't know. And Bryant pick 74, man. I hope that works out for you, but I don't know. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, it's weird.
It was a weird draft, which we expected because of the way this draft was, but definitely some guys that went way earlier, way later than we especially thought, even from a consensus perspective, regardless of how you feel about them. So definitely an interesting one. For sure. But any other thoughts you guys want to throw out there? We've definitely put out a lot, so I think we can rest on our laurels at this point. So, but that'll do it for us this week. We will be back at some point. We'll be kind of putting out some stuff about that, depending on what we kind of decide we want to do here in the next few weeks. But at some point we will be back, whether it's next week or in a few weeks, to bring you guys more draft-related stuff. So definitely check us out. Follow us on Twitter at DGen Network is what I'm calling it, because I couldn't quite get Degenerate Sports, unfortunately, on Twitter. Someone had that. And then at Degenerate Sports Network on YouTube. Subscribe. You guys know the whole deal. So we'll see you guys